Imagine, if you will, a vast, bustling global stadium. The sports brand industry, where three titans, Nike, Adidas, and DKS, reign supreme. They sprint forward on the track of commercial success, leaving behind an awe-inspiring dust trail of annual revenues. $45 billion, $26 billion, and $12 billion, respectively. The echoes of their triumph reverberate in the market, inspiring admiration, envy, and emulation. Sharing the stadium are other formidable players: Puma, Skechers, Under Armour, New Balance, Asics, Converse, and North Face. Each of them adds their unique signature style to the competition, and together they form the 10 most popular sports brands worldwide as of 2022. Now, beneath the roaring applause and stadium lights, there's an open secret that hangs in the air. Like an unexpected plot twist, colleges and universities have found a way to become part of this high-stakes game. Universities and colleges, once the ivory towers of knowledge, now stand as commercial platforms, trading their student body, who were once mere consumers, into a captive market, entering into often questionable sports and direct marketing contracts with these athletic giants, trading their loyalty for lucrative contracts and gear. Take Nike, for example. It has partnerships with over 200 U.S. colleges and universities, including illustrious institutions like Stanford, Oregon, and Florida State universities. In 2021, the company announced that it had entered into long-term partnership with Fanatics, a prominent sports commerce platform. In 2016, the University of Michigan proudly announced a contract with Nike worth $169 million, the biggest deal in college sports history up until then. But the glory was short-lived. The University of Texas, in a jaw-dropping move, entered into a staggering $250 million deal with Nike just months later. So, how did these sports behemoths entrench themselves so deeply within America's universities and colleges? What are the implications of these entanglements on the athletes, who are arguably the lifeblood of college sports? And how has this commercialization of college sports altered the relationship between universities and their athletes? Chapter 1. How sports brands entered universities. In 1993, with Jordan's retirement looming, Nike began a 2-year push to sell more licensed apparel for college teams. It was fertile territory. The NBA and the NFL were each selling about $3 billion worth of apparel and merchandise annually through licensing agreements with big brands like Nike, Adidas, and Reebok, while U.S. colleges were bringing in $2.5 billion each year through licensing deals with smaller local and regional companies. Using its College Colors program as a blueprint, Nike moved into the fragmented college athletics apparel market. The fruits of this labor were ripe and plentiful, and helped earn the company an extra $50 million each year by the end of 1995. College athletics promised much more room for growth than the nearly saturated market for professional apparel. It also gave Nike the chance to expand its influence in the world of college football, which would help the company as it sought more licensing deals with NFL teams. In the mid-1990s, Nike signed a slew of all-school apparel deals, like the one it had made with the University of Miami in 1987, hoping to do for college football what it had done so well and so profitably with college basketball. Their aggressive tactics included a $6.2 million deal with Florida State, which included an annual $225,000 bonus for head football coach Bobby Bowden, on top of his regular salary. Further, they struck a 6-year, $8 million deal with the University of Michigan and allocated $2.6 million to Penn State over 3 years. In 1986, the University of Oklahoma was splurging on its championship football team, dedicating over $2 million to the team. This sum covered a variety of athletic gear: $6,000 for helmets from Bike Athletic Company, $10,000 for jerseys made by McGregor, and $5,400 for 200 pairs of Nike shoes, each designed for a specific type of terrain: artificial turf, grass, or damp conditions. The University of Oklahoma was merely just one of many schools spending this kind of money on their college football team. The market for supplying and outfitting America's college football teams turned into a gold mine that was worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and Nike was on course to dominate it, with Adidas trailing just behind. To conquer the lucrative market, Nikes, Adidas, and other shoe companies sought exclusive deals to ensure that college athletes wore their branded shoes each time they stepped in front of the tens of thousands of fans who came out to see them play, and the millions of fans who watched the games live on television. The problem, however, was that the National Collegiate Athletic Association, NCAA rules, prohibited direct partnerships between companies and college teams and players. So the shoe companies got creative, starting with Nike. In 1977, they started sending sales representatives to negotiate directly with college coaches, who were allowed to cut their own personal deals through an NCAA loophole. For most students, the choice of university and majors they choose is guided by perceived market demands. Most students pick majors they believe would yield the best return on their investment. However, what most students don't realize is the complex marketing tactics of universities. Painting education both as a service and a lifestyle, they fiercely vie to brand their programs as the solution to the volatile global job market. While corporations such as Nike seek out universities for sports contracts, universities compete to offer corporations the most lucrative contracts. Universities see themselves as equal partners and often compromise their ethics to increase their bottom line. Take Stanford University as an example. A trailblazer in these sports corporation partnerships, notably with Nike, secured an endowment fund of $37.7 million in the 2021 fiscal year, slightly less than what Yale, University of Texas, and Harvard received. At the same time, universities are starting to act like businesses, using their logos to brand everything. Like businesses, they protect these logos very carefully to make as much money as possible. Chapter 2. How universities serve as profit havens for sport brands. Corporations like Nike skillfully weave their identities into university cultures, imprinting their brand and influencing the student market, just as universities meticulously sell their branded products to these very students. In her best-selling book No Logo, Canadian filmmaker Naomi Klein argues that the effect of contemporary branding strategies is to push the host, or sponsored culture, into the background, so that the brand emerges as the star. The idea, she writes, is not to sponsor the culture, but to be the culture. Brands like Nike and Adidas strive to embody this philosophy and don't merely aim to sponsor universities. Their ultimate objective is to be the university. Nike, partnering with the University of Oregon in 1986, is a fascinating example. This partnership changed how college sports programs worked behind the scenes. In the past, the people buying equipment for universities were like accountants. Their job was to buy enough good gear and clothes while staying within their budget. But Nike brought a business mindset to these university staff, encouraging them to act more like smart business people, rather than just managing public money and tuition fees. The old ways of bidding and working with local sellers slowly stopped, replaced by private talks between salespeople, coaches, and administrators. An interesting result of this change was that sports equipment went from being an expense to a way to make money. Unpaid student athletes became like walking advertisements, bringing in a lot of money. As a result, the roles of the athletic department business managers was redefined. Now, the most important job for these managers was to decide which brand these walking human billboards will promote, Nike or Adidas. Companies like Nike are not just signing deals with universities and colleges. They're strategically investing in their brand to earn more money. They put their logos on uniforms and sports equipment worn by athletes and coaches, which helps influence what students buy. Research shows that an average American university student spends over $800 a year on hobbies and related equipment. Also, since college athletes have a significant voice on social media, thanks to their huge audiences, brands use them as powerful marketing channels. Further, live audiences attending university sports events provide another layer of exposure. Consider this. In 2019, over 47 million spectators attended college football games. These sports enthusiasts represent a highly attractive demographic, primarily males in the sought-after 18 to 35-year-old market segment, boasting an average income of $55,000, making this form of advertising significantly more cost-effective than buying a 30-second commercial slot. Take a game between Penn State and Michigan broadcasted on ABC as an example. The logos seen on the athletes' uniforms turn the whole 4-hour game into a long ad for Nike. In the 1960s and 1970s, the idea of a brand representing a company's image came about. This became a key point for marketers trying to understand what a brand really means. During this time, a new belief emerged that a company's worth was tied to how much it spent on marketing and how creative it was. Companies like Nike, Reebok, Starbucks, Tommy Hilfiger, Calvin Klein, Intel, Microsoft, and Gap were at the forefront of this idea. These companies focused more on creating attractive brand images rather than products. A good example is Nike. As the founder and CEO Phil Knight said, Nike's goal isn't to sell shoes but to improve people's lives through sports and fitness, and to keep the magic of sports alive. Rather than engaging in price wars, companies like Nike and Reebok raised their prices and spent more on marketing, signing famous athletes to big endorsement deals and universities to sponsorship agreements. Nike is a leader in this competitive world of advertising, and in 2022, Nike spent an astronomical $3.22 billion on advertising, yielding a staggering $46 billion in revenue. While big athletic shoe companies have been using athlete endorsers for a long time, the idea of sponsoring whole university sports departments is quite new. This strategy started in 1977, when the Converse Corporation made a deal with Jerry Tarkanian, the men's basketball coach at the University of Nevada in Las Vegas. In this deal, Tarkanian got 2 free pairs of shoes for every pair he bought for his team. Nike took this idea and in 1991 offered Tarkanian and 54 other basketball coaches endorsement contracts worth $4 million. The blurry lines between corporate sponsors and the recipients of their sponsorship is illustrated by the increasing role played by Nike and Adidas in the recruitment of college athletes, especially men's basketball players. This recruitment approach has 2 parts. First, Nike runs camps that help it connect with top college players across the country. They provide shoes to the players on summer teams in the schools they attend, making a direct link with young people all over the country. Second, by forming relationships with the best prophets, their coaches and schools, Nike is creating strong bonds with potential future stars, like Michael Jordan. These relationships also help college coaches with their recruitment. As Texas Tech coach Bobby Knight once said, "I see lots of high school sophomores and juniors who don't have money, taking visits to college campuses. They're given a choice, a list of 4 or 5 schools they can visit, all expenses paid, and what a coincidence. They're all schools that wear the same brand of shoe." Chapter 3. How Universities Exploit College Athletes. The NCAA's decision on July 1, 2021, that let college athletes make deals with brands seemed forward-thinking. But for some, like former University of Tennessee and NBA player C.J. Watson, it was just a way to take advantage of students. I think the new rule is to stop kids from going overseas, especially for basketball, to keep them in college. They're still not getting what they should. It's still like a slave mentality, he said. Investigations have revealed that college sport mostly benefits rich white people financially at the expense of black athletes. According to sociologist Billy Hawkins, American college sport mirrors deep-seated systems of economic, political, social, and cultural control that have resulted in a kind of college sports industrial complex at predominantly white colleges and universities. As he found in his 2010 study of the NCAA, this situation is a modern form of an old system that has exploited black people in the U.S. for financial gain. To achieve athletic success and financial security, mostly white colleges and universities attracted black athletes from historically black universities and colleges by offering things like scholarships. Hawkins shows how racism has become part of the NCAA, creating a system where mainly white colleges and universities act as colonizers by buying black athletes for their exploitative system. The impact of historical racial inequality on American college sports today can be seen in the top 5 conferences: ACC, SEC, Big Ten, Pac-12, and Big 12, and the 2 most profitable sports, football and basketball. The 65 universities in these 5 conferences made an astonishing $8.3 billion in the 2018 to 2019 season alone. Despite these high earnings, black athletes, who play a big part in generating this income, don't benefit from it. Out of all the students at the mainly white colleges and universities in these 5 conferences, only 5.7% are black. But this percentage jumps to 55.9% for men's basketball, 55.7% for football, and 48.1% for women's basketball. These athletes, according to The Guardian, only get scholarships that cover their cost of attendance for their hard work. In many cases, they don't even get health insurance. A key question is, where does all this money go? Investigations have found that the main people benefiting are the coaches, athletic department officials, and university presidents. As The Guardian reports, white people overwhelmingly hold the top jobs in college athletics in the Power 5 conferences, whether as chancellors and presidents, 84%, athletic directors, 75%, or head coaches, 81% of men's basketball coaches, 82% of women's basketball coaches, and 80% of football coaches. The fact that athletes who earn these billions are not paid fairly shows the impact of the legacy of racial inequality on American college sports. It's frustrating for me because even with this new rule, I play in front of thousands of fans every Saturday, and everyone else gets paid. Darius, SEC football player, told The Guardian in 2021. As former NBA All-Star David West said, even with this new rule, the system is still set up to benefit the players last, not first. To tackle the impact of the history of racial inequality on American college sports, we need to debunk the myths that support it. One such myth is that athletes willingly take part in college sports. Strictly speaking, these athletes are forced to participate. Here's how it works. First, scholarships that make it mandatory for recipients to play college sports are a form of racialized structural coercion. Structural coercion, as defined by Jill Fisher, refers to the social and economic situations that influence a person's available choices. The huge disparity in social, economic, and cultural conditions caused by racial capitalism in America and the resulting difference in access to higher education and stable jobs essentially illustrates structural coercion. Given these facts, a scholarship to play college sports is more of a need than a choice. White families in the U.S. today have at least 85% more wealth than black families. While 45% of white Americans aged between 25 and 29 have a bachelor's degree, only 28% of black Americans in the same age group have a bachelor's degree. Kaya McCullough, a former UCLA and professional soccer player and co-founder of the United College Athlete Association, said education-related compensation is far from enough for the amount of work and revenue produced by college athletes. Any real change in college sports would need to address this issue. On campus, athletes face a second form of coercion, called status coercion. This type of coercion shows the many ways in which college athletic departments have power over athletes. Since coaches decide whether an athlete plays or not, they also control what an athlete can say or do. In short, the American system is unfairly biased against black athletes, who are affected more by the economic inequality that defines America as we know it today. In a landmark ruling on March 31, 2021, the U.S. Supreme Court established that college athletes are being exploited by the multi-billion-dollar college sports industry. The judges pointed out that college sports generate billions of dollars for universities, yet the students who are involved in these sports are not compensated adequately. This historic ruling by the U.S. Supreme Court summarizes this entire video, that the relationship between sports brands, universities, and athletes is abusive and requires urgent intervention.